a situation report on the storm and the outage, and oh my God. I'll go over it with you, and then I'll answer questions. The outage was from.
You
got an extra?
No.
No, I've got one right here.
Oh, okay.
The outage was from the 29th of June to the 11th. We opened the emergency command center at 2000 hours. For those of you, that's 8 o'clock in the evening on the 29th, and we closed it on 2000 hours, 8 o'clock in the evening on the 9th of July. The facility was open, was manned 24 hours a day for 12 consecutive days with volunteers. The total in the county was 3,877 total residences at the peak of outage. That was 65% of the residents in the county, and the telephone outage was 87% of the county. And it really lasted longer than the power outage. The resources that we requested, the emergency services requested, was the senior citizens for a cooling station. We also asked them to use their food delivery service on Monday when they started back to work, and their home health visits for welfare checks on all the elderly. The Orange County Health Department, we asked them to run welfare checks on all their home visits, the elderly, and also check the neighborhoods. The UHC runs, we asked them to run welfare checks on their home visits. The VFDS were cooling stations, and they did welfare checks along with the squads as they come in. Provided services, we provided one generator to, number one, we provided 3 generators to residents, one generator, separate generator, we provided the McClellan District Fire Department to make a cooling station out of it. After Saturday evening, we provided water to anybody that wanted it, and they came from Tyler County and Sistersville and all over the place to haul water back. ICE, the West Union Volunteer Fire Department provided over 300, iced over 300 requests.
Now,
yes.
You don't have the Dodgers County ounces over there.
Yeah, squads.
Squads, oh, okay.
Okay, I didn't spell them out, I said squads.
Squads.
Yeah, that's what I meant. We delivered over 500 MREs. Those are meals ready to eat. We provided freezer space as requested. We had one guy just bring his whole freezer in and plug it in. He just wanted someplace to plug it in. Wi-Fi upon request, that was a new one. People come in. Welfare checks, we checked on 86 different residents. We had a 93-year-old lady tell us that she got along fine before she had electric, and she was getting along okay now. You all know her. You laughed if I told you who it was. Did we make mistakes? Yes. Could we have done it better? Yes. Our major problems were a lack of command. We didn't have a chain of command established. We had communications. We didn't have any communications up and running initially and then it was just radio and periodic communications. We had a lack of an LEPC to activate and put in place. Monday morning really hurt us because people went back to work and we lost our volunteers. We lack of a permanent central location for an EOC and a published telephone number to call. In short, a disaster plan and a command structure. We've talked it over. I've talked over to most of the people around. Most people think that the disaster plan, as soon as we can, we need to get it done and in place. And this will replace confusion with a command structure, and it will also put everybody on the same page. We need to establish a permanent emergency command center. Now, I understand, I've been told by the 911 center that our emergency command center is in Pennsburg at the 911 center. And I told them, I said, I'm not coming down to Pennsburg. Oh yeah, all your radios and everything are down here. I'm not going to try to run Dodge County from Pennsburg. That's just not right. And a published telephone number and address. We need to establish the local EOC. We've been working on that. We've had one meeting, but we need to get the thing up. Recommended SOPs, or standard operating procedures in the future, would be a daily briefing with the LEPC and commission. And this can either be done by in person or telephone. I did one every morning with the state and you just dial telephone and listen. Or if you had input, you can input it, but you were just on a conference call. Delegated duties, if you have an LEPC in place, you can delegate duties to have one person and only one person to do news releases. This puts one person, one story, one line of information. You need one person in charge of the shelters, which we have had offers of up to 7 shelters now. And we've had a lot of people come out of the woodwork and say, yeah, we'll do this, or we won't do this, and we're going to take that all into consideration. I've talked to the health department. I've already had a meeting with them, and it's general consensus of all the medical organizations in the county that any medical problems that are done in the county ought to be turned over to the medical people. They're professionals. It's their job. Let them do it. I'd way rather than make decisions about medical problems than I would. And we have the network and the stuff to do it. Have someone in charge of the supplies. That means that one person knows what's coming in and what's going out, and where it's coming and who's paying for it. And it just simplifies things. The person in charge of special conditions E has the most important job there. That's probably the person that's got to solve the hardest problems. And they'll have the most responsibility. Have somebody in charge of all the equipment. We had an idea where stuff was, but we didn't have exactly an idea, and the stuff would break down. And if this person took it out, then we'd have to go find them to find out where they took it and the exact address and everything. And one person in charge of personnel. And we had a lot of offers of help from a lot of different organizations. And it kind of fell to the fire departments, but there's a lot of people out there willing to help. We just need to work out the procedures. I think the Doddridge County citizens and Doddridge County Commission dodged a major bullet right here. Without an LEPC in place, and we got out of this without any major problems. But it was a good learning experience. I like to try to learn from everything I do, and most of you have never been through one of these. I hope you never have to go through one again, but I think everyone can see the need for a disaster plan now and a local emergency planning committee, the need for a command structure, and the most important part of this whole mess, the lack of communications just made it harder. You as a commission, I hope, can see the need for an OES director who will do something, just not draw a check. This is a very important job, not to be in charge of anything, but just to put things together. Now, 14 days, 24 hours a day, we worked as best we could with what we had. I don't think there was any major problems. Like I said, we addressed everything. We have a day-by-day account with names and addresses on it, a daily count of people out of power. I didn't go into all that. I'll give you that at the end of the month. I'll give my annual report. Expenses, there was, I know that our fire department went through about a little over $700 worth of supplies and gasoline and stuff like that we come up with. I'm sure the other departments had expenses too. The FEMA doesn't pay anything under $1,000. I had to go around and talk to them. Several of the departments, I don't think any departments had any physical damage. The biggest thing that we're looking at right now is shelters. And if you realize that this many people's out of power now, think about this many people out of power and having 0-degree weather. Because when electric goes off, there's no heat. And that's what we experienced back in 92 and 93 when the power came. So we got out of this unscathed. Some people were unhappy. Some people, they chewed on my ear for a little bit. They chewed on Mike's ear for a little bit. And,
Don't forget me.
Oh yeah. I'm sure you guys got chewed on too, but there's no reason for that. If the organization's put into place, then you guys are briefed, you know what's going on. I don't know if you realize it or not, but you guys are responsible for all the bills. And if people start calling and ordering stuff that don't have the authority, then, and they don't declare it a disaster. That first meeting I come up here, remember I said they declared it a disaster. That was very important because that took the monkey off your guys' back for paying the bills. It didn't, you know, but still, like we had one person call in and say, we ordered a truckload of ice. I said, yeah. But they want somebody to sign for it. I said, yeah. I said, I got a better price on ice. They said, what's that? I said, free. Where's that? I said, just come up and get it. They come up and got 30 bags and they were happy. But, you know, you just got to take things one little bit at a time. It's not, there's no glory in this. It's work. There's now the emails that I got 25, 30 emails a morning. They were all wanting to give you stuff. Now they got 25, 30 emails a morning, and I sat there and go through them all, and they want to know what to do with the trailers. The trailers are running out of diesel fuel, the refrigerator trailers, and the ice is melting. And they paid for all that ice. Now, do you keep it frozen and try to find a central place to freeze it, or do you end up with warm bags of water sitting in the back of the trailer, which is kind of a stinky mess after a while? And the water is not a problem, but somebody paid for all that water, and you know, you've got pallets of water sitting around now not accounted for. And they're hunting for their trailer. There's got some people want to know where the trailer is. Frontier's still hunting for their generator. I know. So, I think we got through this pretty good for as bad a shape as we were in when we started. I don't know of anything else I need to report. That's the report I sent into the state, a situation report that I filed with them, and they we were back up and running probably 3 days before most of the counties around because we had power. We had power back on and things was working. Our biggest problem is communication, not being able to get the word out. And we felt that the home health people and the food people, senior citizens, traveled the whole county. If the school system had been in, we'd have used the kids in the school system and sent stuff home with them. But, you know, with no telephones, you know, our biggest complaint was when was Channel 12 going to come back on and Days of Our Lives back on the air. I had more questions on that and cell phones. You know, when are my cell phone going to work again? So those are the two biggest questions I had. And, you know, when you get questions like that, things aren't real bad. So, do you have any questions?
Well, I think we done a good job. We could have done better. I agree with that. I'll admit we made a lot of mistakes, including myself. But we're learning. And I hope we never have another one to go through.
I don't, you know, you guys don't know, really, truly, you're sitting here, and we left the beach. When this started going out, I was sitting eating dinner, and we started getting pages over my cell phone. And my son-in-law, both my son-in-laws, they started getting pages. And it went out as an explosion. That's all we had was an explosion. No fallout, no nothing. And then we started, later on, we get wind damage, and, you know, we started getting all this other stuff. We left in the middle of the night and came back, and when we got to we spread out down the road. We kind of sent a scout out, and we bought all of our gasoline in Virginia because when they were talking about 2-mile-long gas lines at the pumps in the southern part of the state, they were. There wasn't any electric, there wasn't any gas. The only thing that was up and running, God bless them, were the toll booths on the turnpike.
Oh,
and they had generators. And they never missed a dime. I mean, you know, but you know, it did. It looked like a disaster. It really looked like a war zone coming up through. So I don't think that we could have functioned at all without the volunteer system. Both the ambulance authority, or the ambulances, and the fire departments. They're the nature of everything. I'm working on a grant right now to make all the fire departments plus the county park and possibly 2 other areas in the county. I just talked to Jim Foster about out in the Oxford area, and he recommended the community building out there. Generators for their units. We figured we could buy one off Ralph real cheap. He's got his garage over there that he hadn't used yet.
Still haven't used.
Still. But no, we're getting estimates. I just had 2 guys call me today. They want to come in and give us estimates for those areas. We feel that there'll be disaster money become available in the form of grants. I talked to you earlier about some seed money to maybe match those. We're looking at the, 2 of the emergency departments are already done, so it'd be the fire departments, the county park, and the AA would be the other buildings for emergency generators. We're talking about maybe the Grange and Smith School for the other 2. As warming area, Grange, what was that?
Park.
I said park.
Okay.
And we know that it can be simply done if we get the money. It's a money thing, and get them turnkey, and then they become warming areas, plus cooling areas, plus community centers where people we can get information to. They can be neutral or central points in the different communities where you have an operating base, where you have a base of operation in every community. Then we have some place to send stuff, we have some place to coordinate stuff, we have some way of doing this. But it's all in the plan, so we just got to do it. You guys have any questions?
I'd like to see some better communication, but I don't know how that's going, I don't know how you're going to do it. So you guys got more experience in that than I do, so we can work on that.
We were basically down to word of mouth. You know, until the telephones start coming back up, we were.
There's no power, there's no cell phones, there's no need to put it on television or radio if you don't have any. Well, radio, you got battery radios, I understand
Both
that.
telephones, both TV stations were down for, what, 22 hours they told us, Mike?
Yeah.
They were both down for 22 hours, so.
A couple of the radio stations were down too.
Well, there was only one radio station in the state running, that was 97, and down at,
Talk radio.
no, it didn't, talk radio didn't come back up till, I've got it, when it come back up.
93.97.
97.1 at Sutton was it, when we come back, was the only radio station running in the state.
At 4:30 in the morning after, there was nothing, and that came on about 9:30 because my
talked
husband
to-
was checking it on the
Yeah, I talked to WHAR, is that talk radio? I talked to them at 10 o'clock on Monday morning, and they were hoping to be back up within 6 hours.
If you don't mind, I spoke before you did from the Smith community, and a lot of the stuff that you talked about was a lot of my concerns. If you'd like to have a copy of what I read to them, lack of communication.
Well, it is, and there was, and our hands were tied because we're basically a radio-based thing. The 911 center went down. It moved to Doddridge County.
Why did I have to go to Ritchie County to get supplies?
When I called,
Ritchie County to get supplies.
when I called 911 to ask,
We didn't. Okay.
I was given
One thing at a time.
Mr. James White, this is my notes,
Yeah.
and Ritchie County, is he Ritchie County OES? Was sent to Ritchie County for, and I explained to him, and if they record their phone calls, it's recorded because I did not call the non-emergency number. I explained to him I was Southern Doddridge County,
Right.
I explained my surrounding communities, and he gave me the name and the number to Ritchie County. She went to Ritchie County High School and Fire Department to get the supplies.
For what?
For water and ice.
Ice.
Yeah.
And
You could have got
MREs.
ice at the West Union Park, but we didn't have any.
We didn't know that.
That's right. We didn't have any way to communicate the fact. We had ice there, we had water there.
But we had.
Well, with no communication, see, that's our problem. We started out with nothing. And that's what we're trying to build right now.
My thing of it is, we're social media. And I don't know how many in this room, probably not many, looking around, but Facebook. I communicated daily with Commissioner Agnes Queen from Lewis County.
Right.
Gilmer County put up a Facebook emergency plan Facebook page.
How are you going to get your Facebook if you didn't have power?
But the thing of it is, I live Southern Doddridge County. I read that, get on the phone. I'll go knock door to door.
We had 87 or 67.5% of the county without phone. I mean, West Union was without phone for 3 days.
Our area had phone because they brought out
Yeah.
generators and nobody
That's-
swiped it. But I don't know who ordered the MREs for Smith.
We don't know either.
But whoever did, I made one phone call to her and asked her to make a phone call. in probably less than 20 minutes, phone calls were made. On Sunday, when it was brought back, we handed out meals for 199 people.
You're
Just
absolutely
for
right.
one phone call.
Right.
And asking to spread the word.
But the MREs,
Just didn't have electric pool.
well, the MREs didn't show up here. They showed up here and they wanted us to deliver them. We didn't know where they went. We didn't know anything about them. I called the Red Cross to ask them who delivered them. They never did call us back. Who requested them if we'd have known. But with nothing in place, absolutely nothing in place, we had nothing to go with.
Exactly.
And the communications, our hands were tied. Now, like I just said, we need a morning briefing. We need to get a command center together. What we got out of that was a list of 7 or 8 people from the Smith community and the point that they would use their shelter. And, you know, it was community.
You're talking about the meeting that was a couple years ago?
No, this is for what we got of this. We have now a current list of, I don't have it with me, but 7 or 8 people from the Smith community
One of the
area.
numbers that I gave Mr. Kenny that day, yes.
Could
okay.
be, okay.
Yes.
But we have a list of those. I've talked to 2 other people since then, and I asked them about a possibility of a generator out there for the building, a natural gas generator to come on, use it for, they said yeah. So now we have a point in that area, contact point. I just talked to Mr. Foster about Oxford. They were another place that didn't have anything. We had nothing in place.
Exactly, nothing.
And that's what we're trying to do. I worked the week I was at the beach, and I've got 256 pages so far of a plan, and we're trying to build it into something we can do now. The next time that we have an LEPC meeting, we had 16 people at the last one. Ralph was there. Now we need the community to come in, and we need people from each community, and we need people for the shelters. We need people for, and if we can work on that, the CEOs over on 23 said if the firemen got tired, they'd come in and run a shelter everywhere.
You know,
See, that was one thing, is I would volunteer. I mean, we were fine. We had water, we were fine. I would have been out, I would have.
Right.
She did go door to door.
Right.
delivering
That-
water.
everything, that's fine.
Because there's no people that was out there.
That's
We
right.
didn't have enough money to drive to town.
You know, we know that we need to take care of our neighbors, but in order to take care of our neighbors, we need to know where we can go to get the stuff to take care of our
Well,
neighbors.
you're absolutely right, and we need to be able to coordinate everything, and that's what we're working on, and that's our whole point in doing all this. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you right up front, there was some mistakes made. There were some people. We had one lady burn up 3 of her generators, and she called and wanted the 4th one, and I said, "No, ma'am, lowest probability tell me you're probably going to burn the 4th one up. We don't have it to give to you." So we took the last generator, took it to McClellan, fired up their fire department with it. But you know, you just got to deal with each thing. But there's things that we need help with, and the next time you see an ad or there'll be a notice in the paper of an LEPC meeting, please come in. We need your input, and we need people to look at the plan. I talked to Sandy. I got the health departments all together because that was probably the biggest problem we had was a medical problem. They need some information too. So she sent a lady up from her department. We got the medical center and the health department, everybody, all the doctors together, and we're working on that. And we're going to go right down through this. We're going to put a plan together, but we need to do it as soon as we can.
What happened to the disaster plan that we had a few years ago? Because somebody came to the,
There's nothing been done since 1991.
It's not been that long ago.
Some has been done, but I guess everybody keeps saying that it was never followed through.
Because
Paperwork was fast.
somebody came to the doctor.
Nicely came to Smith Community Building.
Did he?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. When we went to get the disaster plan out, what was in the file, Beth?
No, it wasn't on in 91. It has been, I'm gonna say within the last, he actually was one of, maybe you'll know, he was, it's when the fire departments and stuff got the tracker that you could put on autistic kids or.
Well, that was a single program, Dave.
But on that night, he was talking about the emergency thing and took our names and numbers for us at contacts.
We got to. When I left in 2001, I have an envelope out there with all the inventories of everything. Everything was on desk, everything had been done, and I called him and told him it was out there, and it's still sitting out there. So, I mean, nothing been done. So what we're doing is trying to pick everything up, and we're trying to get everything on paper, running. We're trying to get an organization created, and we run into some real problems. And you know, just the fact that if we had an individual radio that we could have set up, like you guys have one in your department. We don't have one in our department. We go next door to the squad. Well, we had to run clear over there, answer telephones. We had them taking care of radio stuff. So there's a lot of just little details that need to be worked out too. Storage building, yeah, we got a storage building. We got to store all that stuff central, but we didn't have any way to communicate it out to the people.
Yeah.
I talked to WHAR. They put stuff out on the Air Force sparingly whenever they run their community reports after a certain time. I talked to 97 down there at Sutton. They said, we'll put it out on the air, bud, but we don't know if we cover that area up in Doddridge County. I said, you're the only radio talking on the air right now, so.
And see, what I personally kept hearing, and I say in my community, southern part of the county, we're not hearing nothing. We don't know what you have.
Well, you're absolutely right. Midway Fire Department called and says, do you care if we deliver water and ice to your area? I said, you got it? They said, yes, melt out here. I said, give it to them.
They kept going through.
James White. Huh?
I would like to know, we're all, just not for our community, where was the fire department for her area? I mean, I'm not going to single out just one. I want to know where they all were.
They were out.
Other people.
Smithburg was out.
They were not at my house. I was out for 11 days without electric. And, but the whole Poverty Road is on HREA except for me. I go over the hill on Mon Power, and Little Flint, which is behind me, would have been out too.
Are you aware that there were people on day 18, that's when they got their power restored?
I'll give you I'll give you down at.
They told me Pikes Fork and where's the Sycamore Fork and things called, was day 18.
It come up and went back down.
I live out there, that's not true.
That's not true?
That's not true, because we got,
I said rumors,
yeah, that's right, and that's probably one of the biggest problems we've got. I can give you a website, you can go on there, it's First Energy.
Yes,
You can pick on Doddridge County and tell you all the outages out in the county.
But that one day, and I think you and I had this conversation, I said it was wrong because they said it was so many houses. I can name those houses in southern Doddridge County that was still out.
See, I had a gentleman from out in the St. Clair area call me who is an electrical engineer. I went to school with him in high school. He called me and he said, Pat, he said, they sent people in here with maps of power lines that didn't have any road names, and they worked 2.5 days out there on a dead-end line that there wasn't anybody living on. And when he finally got there, and they didn't know where the switches were, they didn't know where the fuses were, and he said some of the guys out there got them straightened out there, and that's how they got, but they were from Kentucky, and Illinois, and Tennessee, and they were Florida. You know, the guys that put our line back on, which we had 192 hours on our generator that it ran, that they were from Kentucky and finally got us up and running.
The guys, day 10 is the first day that I seen a power man. That's when my electric came on. They were actually from Ohio. That's the first time I'd seen somebody. It was early in the morning. Mine was back at about 3:30 that
And the people didn't understand is every time they stopped and talked to them, it slowed them down. But they talked to every one of them. I mean,
A lot of very defensive.
yeah, the New Milton area, and clear out towards probably clear to Wolf Pen out there. I don't know how far it went. Middle Island School, that area out in there was a transformer right over here behind the thing. They couldn't find it.
Landa was out.
Yeah, but that was a transformer right over here at the pushing lights, and they couldn't find the transformer.
Somebody had said that, well, we heard the hazmat, the Montero or whatever it's called now, would not touch me, making hazmat come out.
No, what they did is any transformers laying on the ground, they brought a hazmat team in, cordoned it off, and made each one of them a hazmat site. They bought a new transformer and a pole, put it up on the pole, and left the old stuff lay in place, and they're addressing them on an individual basis.
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of people realize that we'll be having planned power outages because they're not fixed, they're just rigged together.
Absolutely.
I mean, they did through trees, and so it's still going to be a mess. But maybe you can answer this question. Nobody can seem to answer this question. Why was National Guard not called into Doddridge County?
We didn't qualify for it. We didn't have Doddridge County. When everything goes on three categories. Your main population base in Doddridge County is West Union. Okay. The second thing that they looked on, they had 3 things that we looked on here, was population, the population core. And since we got the jail from Smithburg to Greenwood, right down 50 is the population core of Doddridge County. It all had water, it all had electric, because when they put the three-phase power back on Saturday afternoon at 3:30, that brought the water plant back up, that gave municipal water. So we didn't qualify for any of that stuff. When you called out Charleston, if you order stuff, we had guard troops here in the county. They were working on 20.
On day 10.
They were working on 23 down, driving, delivering stuff down 23, weren't they, Ray? So we had guard troops here. We only had 6, but they were working down on 23. If there had been a need for guard troops, we could have gotten. But most of the stuff that we asked, the people were getting, they didn't ask for. We had 3,000 people out. Ritchie County had 14,000 people out. We had, Harrison County had 43,000 people out. You know, when the core of Doddridge County came back on Friday afternoon, no, that's right, but we're too rural and we're too spread out and we don't have population base to warrant. Everything's done on numbers. And when I did this before, if you didn't meet the category, they called on, what day was that, Patsy? We did the generator today. Tuesday or Wednesday, after everything was up and running, Salem was back up and running, they called and said, we have a generators coming from Tyler through to the industrial home. We need to know the voltages and what they need. And I said, Salem's back up and running, but I told the sergeant we'd go check. So we were in Clarksburg, and we left what we were doing. We drove all the way back to the industrial home to check on it. And they told us, no, they'd been up and running for 2 days. They didn't need the generator. So I called, but it was prioritized. So I called the sergeant back, and he was from Wheeling. He said, okay, the next priority for that person's Sutton. And that generator went on to Sutton to run Sutton. So, I mean, you know, it's all prioritized. There's only so much equipment, and, you know, I heard a rumor, oh yeah, the National Guard's going to, or the state's going to buy everybody a generator. They're going to pay $2,000 on a generator. I said, yeah, I'd like to see that happen.
That FEMA would reimburse the ones that was, I guess, yeah, medical. Not, why? I honestly think that Commissioner Agnes Queen from Lewis County had put that on Facebook.
There's so many misconceptions on this. When it comes down to it, if you don't have $1,000 worth of claim, or you don't have major damage, and major damage is structural damage to your residents, they won't even come talk to you. And when they come, when we put it out, I think on Tuesday, the 3rd week, FEMA come in, I met them at the 911 center, and I took them, they had 3 places on 23 that had what was considered major damage. The old Sedalia School, the roof was off a bit, physically off the gymnasium. There was 2 resident structures there, and I don't think either one of the structures qualified because the guy got out of the vehicle and looked and said, isn't this the floodplain? And I said, yeah. They deal with flooding here all the time. And Sedalia School technically is in the floodplain. So, you know, everything starts, you know, we can't do anything here because they'll move you up on top of the hill if you can buy a piece of property up on top of the hill to move you to. But that, and you know, but I've been down this road years and years and years. If we'd had communications, if we had had an LEPC in place, we'd had somebody put in charge of this, we'd had somebody put in charge of the media, just one person to take care of a daily, and had been able to do a daily briefing. We didn't have telephones. We couldn't even have conference calls. So, I mean, you know, just one core was all it was. But all of our food stores was up and running. All of our gasoline stations were up and running.
After you said, even here in West Union, people were sitting in line.
Right. Not many lines.
No, not like, you know.
Not like everywhere else. But we were the point that they were telling them in Sistersville. We had people coming from Sistersville to get water, get people coming up here to get ice.
How did they know about that?
Word of mouth. They kept, one old guy drove until he found some place that had it. He said, he took 2 5-gallon cans of gas. Who was it? Did you get a name on him?
No, I didn't get it.
Anyway, when he went back, more people started coming. But we hauled water, we filled containers for people to water their cattle with because it was so hot. But the hose was there, turn it on, go. The city didn't charge us for the water, it was there. We didn't have any containers to put it in, but we give you all the water you want. So, but like I said, we went with everything we could think of as far as ways of checking people, and we figured that people that needed to be checked on the worst were the people that somebody else was taking care of. One lady came home from the hospital and called one of the generator. We took it out to her. And the guys told me, they said they wouldn't eat anything out of that refrigerator. The water running out of it and stuff is kind of good. They plugged it in, got a runner for her, and filled her freezer with ice and everything. And I talked to the health department. They went out and told her, they said, yeah, we cleaned the refrigerator out. But she just come home from the hospital. But they said her water running out the door of the refrigerator. And I said, well, that's not good. But we tried every way we knew. We contacted everybody that we could contact, and we contacted everybody we couldn't. But with Facebook, everybody says Facebook, Facebook, Facebook. But if the electric's down, the computers are down.
Not necessarily.
So many of us have a generator.
All it takes is just one.
You're right.
person.
So we have to, and we're real fortunate. No one got hurt with generators.
Oh, that's very true.
I mean, you know, we had one instance. We had a line fire out in the county, and when the power company came and they started checking things, they said somebody's running a generator and doesn't have the breaker turned off. Boy, some guy disappeared from the crowd real quick. He went and turned his generator off because he hadn't thrown the main breaker and he's feeding the line back. He's like everybody else. So we was real fortunate that with as many generators are running, somebody didn't get electrocuted or toasted. But yeah, I mean, you know, there's no good answers to this. I told you right up front that you know, there wasn't. But we're going to have to work on it. We're going to have to put something in place.
Well, you know, it's just like, because it's not, if it happens again, it's going to be when it happens.
And it happened in 92, and it happened in 85, and it happened in 64.
07 was in
I was without for 7 days.
That's right.
So, you know, you could put stuff
Yeah.
outside in the snow, you could dress during.
Just lay her
Right,
after.
our outage was just no.
That's right. And you know, it's you're right. It's when it's going to happen. But we need to work on this. Every meeting I've been coming in, I've been bringing doing monthly reports on what we're working on, and you know, they're on file here. You're more than welcome. And the disaster plan is a prime project of ours to get it up and running and get the LEPC up and running. And then when you do that, you have an organization, a chain of command. Then you have something that works. But you know, one person can't do it. Mike stayed down there for 12 days. I mean, we were there for 12 days. He didn't have any air conditioning. He wasn't going home anyway because it was too hot at his house. But you know,